Our core standards are purpose, process, focus, and measure. We do every project with those 4 different standards. And it's so important that you identify your customer standards when you deliver projects or when you build a company.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Nguyen. But before I introduce you to him, I have a quote for you. Courtney Cox said, "The questions I'm asking myself are, what makes me happy? Where do I want to be? What will make me happy at 50, 60 and 70? The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Kenny, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Kenny. Nguyen is the CEO and founder of Big Fish Presentations, a company whose mantra is turning presentations into experiences. He and his team have helped Fortune 100 companies to startups better present. He is a co-author of the book, The Big Fish Experience, Create Memorable Presentations that reel in your audience. Kenny, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is that, on paper, we do presentation design, we train presenters, we do video production, we also help throw conferences. But really what we do at Big Fish Presentations is we turn presentations into experiences. And what that really means is that content, design, delivery, everything's in sync. We find that central message and we can help people really hone it down. I mean, Neil, you and I talked earlier before the interview that we see so many different things, so many different presenters out there that it's hard to see what's the good ones. But when you do see the good ones, you're just completely shocked. It's like, wow, that's an amazing presentation. And the challenge is, why can't they all be great? And that's what we try to combat, is that how do we rid the world of boring presentations? That's what our company lives for. And our mission is we want to rid the world of boring presentations. And, I'm so glad to be here because hopefully after this interview, man, some people will be inspired by that mission and help us out.
Mm-hmm. Kenny, can you tell us the story of how you actually got into your business? Because I've read it in your book and it's quite an interesting tale, isn't it, I think?
It's a sad tale because, no one should ever go through those kind of brutal experiences with presentations. But 5 years ago, I sat through a really boring presentation while a student actually at Louisiana State University, and a Fortune 500 executive came up and gave a speech. I'll never forget it, Neil. The guy came up and gave a speech, and his PowerPoint had 200 slides with nothing but text. And the guy read off every single slide. You might think I'm exaggerating. I kid you not. It might have actually been more than 200. I remember it was slated for an hour. It ended up being 3 hours of just getting brutalized. And I felt like as I sat through that, just mental agony, I thought, what if there was a company that can really help guys like this out, not only become a great presenter, but also help design their presentations. And we launched, and right after we launched, we got a company called Raising Cane's, one of the fastest growing chicken finger restaurants in the United States right now, as a client. And the second client became the largest privately owned company in Louisiana, Blue Cross Blue Shield Louisiana. And it just showed me like, oh, wow, people actually of all sizes need help with their presentations. There's a market for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you talked about that presentation where you had 200 slides and somebody reading the slides, and then obviously at the other end of the scale, you've got someone like Steve Jobs, who used to be very good at doing presentations. What's the thing that makes the difference? I mean, obviously the lack of 200 slides and not reading them is obvious, but why was Steve Jobs so good at doing presentations?
So I think he's good at three things. One is he's a phenomenal storyteller. 2, he's very good at making complex things simple and easy to understand. While his products are like great advances of technology, he makes even the common marketer understand it, or even the common consumer understand why does it make his life so good. When I think of Steve Jobs, I think of someone that doesn't show like not only the steak but also the sizzle. He gives them both, and that's really, really, really rare. Like I love that. And finally, what I think that he's always been so great at, he's great at delivery. I mean, he knows when to pause, when to up his tone, lower his tone. His body language is very powerful. Like he just is excellent at delivering simplicity stories through his body language, his tone, and his content.
Mm-hmm. So your book, I'm looking at your book now, and in your book you've got quite sort of clear structure in there of how to create a presentation, which obviously is more than just creating a slideshow and standing there and reading the slides out. Can you just talk us through the basics of what the framework of your book is about?
Yeah. So the framework of the book is actually our presentation process at Big Fish. We take every client through this process. It's a 3-step process. It's simplistic or engaging content, simplistic design, and engaging delivery, or powerful delivery, I like to say. Because while everything's engaging, you can't have content that's not engaging. You have to get the audience to understand it. You can't have design that's complicated. Make it simple. I like to say the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. And when it comes to delivery, of course it's engaging but powerful. Powerful is when you think of tone, body language, and content together, or what you say. But that's the 3 ways the book is segmented out. And it all combines, so it's content design, delivery equals an experience.
And the book is born out of your real world experience of doing this for other people, which is obviously a good thing, because experiential writing is much better than having something where someone's theorizing about how to do it. So I think that's a great thing. So it looks like you've got a great book here, Kenny. So can you just tell us what you enjoy most about what you do?
The one thing I enjoy the most what I do is that when I get to work with startups, I love working with startups and helping them honestly just come up with a message and get their investment money. Like I like things that have high stakes in them. I guess I'm not a gambler or a risk. I'm more of a risk taker, but I do like people when I come in and say, "Let me help you get this investment," or "Let me make this presentation have a big difference in your company." Because it's one thing to say, like, "Let me just recreate this marketing deck." But there's something like a presentation, like we work with TED, for example. If they have a great message and they want us to help like nail it down, I love doing that, because those kind of platforms, I really think we can make a difference on.
I think if you can deliver a good quality presentation, it can sometimes obviously be the difference between persuading somebody or getting somebody to actually see what you're saying and want to buy into it and not. So it's a very powerful thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a very powerful thing, because the thing is with presentations, like any presenter, they really hold great keys to persuade an audience. Like that's really what it is. It's an argument. It's like at the end of the day, you're trying to argue for your point or for the audience to believe in you or give you money or your costs. Like, it's your moment. And I think everyone should be able to own that moment.
Yeah. One of the things that you talked about earlier is about using stories and things. I think we talked about that before. Having stories in a presentation is quite a good idea as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. In fact, I think stories is one of the most powerful ways to open a presentation.
Yeah, because it makes it memorable. So what is it that drives you, Kenny?
What drives me the most, and my personal why, is that I love helping people that don't have a voice create that voice, whether it's visually or vocally or just through online digital campaigns. Like I love, Neil, helping people find that voice or brands.
Yeah. And have you got any sort of examples of how you've done that?
Yes, man. I have a lot, man. Like, for example, with TED, we work with or even here, I'll give you a better example, Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is one of our, it's our first client. And it's actually one of our favorite clients because they let us be creative and they help us simplify the complex. What I mean by that is they recently had a huge conference to celebrate their 20th anniversary. And at this, they were going to reveal a huge plan where they're planning to go, this is a huge deal. They were planning to go to $1.5 billion within the next 5 years. Now, the crazy part about that it took them 20 years to this year to even get to $500 million. They're going to triple what they did in 20 years in 5 years. And they were going to tell their employees that, and their managers and their leadership that. Now, that's a really tall order. How do you deliver that at an event and make it seem like very realistic? And so we actually worked with the executives on the content on how to deliver it in a very emotional way, but also a very logical way to actually make it sound like, this is something that's going to be very exciting for the company. We're not going to like burn you out. This is something that's going to be enriching for everybody. We create the whole entire like scene from the stage to the actual messaging to coaching the presenters to the videos. We crafted the whole entire show. And that's one of the things I love doing. It drives me is when I can create a show experience like that. I think of the Disney aspect. It's like Disney makes you feel so many emotions when you go to Disney World. And I think about that when we do these presentation shows is that we want to help craft that kind of show as well. So we want to take you on this emotional experience. That's what really drives me is taking something that's really like complex into something that's very emotional, happy, scary, and making the audience feel. Because that's what I feel like the best pitches are. Mm-hmm. They make you feel.
Mm-hmm. One word you keep saying there is experience. And I think that's really interesting because I think a lot of people that do presentations see it as a presentation. And you've really taken this to a next level and talked about an experience. So often when people do those presentations, they become, as a byproduct, a bad experience. And with the right planning, you can create a presentation that becomes a good experience and something that becomes memorable to people. So that's really the essence of what this book's about, isn't it? I think is creating that experience.
It really is, and I'm glad you noticed that. It's like, my guys actually joke about it around the office how many times I say the word experience. Mm-hmm. I say it a lot, Neil. But that's really what we do, man. We sell experiences.
Yeah. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
I cook a lot, Neil. I trained 4 years to be a cook, and I still love doing it. Actually, you can go to YouTube right now and go to youtube.com/You'veGotMeal. You can actually check out some of the dishes that I've been cooking. But besides from that, I love traveling, man. It's good to explore the world and learn, I learned so much just through different cultures. I feel like it's made me a better person and business person as well.
Mm-hmm. So I hope your cooking is well presented and becomes a great experience then when people eat it. Is that the case?
Yeah, I actually, when I see cooking, man, like actually, believe it or not, Neil, you can actually see some themes throughout the book. I actually mentioned in the book that I actually trained in culinary arts. It's like content is like great ingredients. You have to have great content. Design is like the great presentation. Delivery is all about the execution of the dish and experience. And when it comes to presentation experiences, it's all about all those things coming together. So great meals, man, are very much like great presentations.
And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Besides the obvious Steve Jobs, I really, really, really admire. In fact, one of the people I admire you just had in your show, Philip from Nebbia. I love that. I love what he's doing. Yeah, I think it's an incredible thing that how he's taken on a challenge and has gotten so many people behind him to change the way how people see a simple thing like showering, man, how it can save money. And like not only that, how it can make a bigger difference and save water for people, man. I mean, like, you can't like get a bigger social mission than that and feel good at the same time. Like those are the types of entrepreneurs I really admire are the ones that build social missions into their businesses. Mm. My father is one too.
Yeah. I think what Phil's doing is absolutely awesome, actually, because he's taken something that's so fundamental and something that's not really changed an awful lot for so long and sort of come up with a new way of creating a shower experience. So it's, right? Yeah, it's amazing, I think. So you mentioned your dad there. What were you going to say there?
Oh, so my dad's definitely my biggest entrepreneur hero. He's been there from the get-go, always since I was a young child, like pushed me to be an entrepreneur and own my own business, control my destiny. And I can't tell you enough like how much that made an impact on me is that, he's the one that told me to drop out of college, even though he's the guy that told me to go to college in the first place. But when he saw like how I was doing, because I ran this company while I was in college and I dropped out. And he was the one that said, son, you should really drop out because, you're gonna do this anyway when you grow older. Like, why not just do it now? And absolutely right.
Can we just talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? I mean, you've just talked about it a little bit there, so you've sort of given us a nice segue into that. What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Oh man, Neil, one of the big things we had to start was like not having any money because it was bootstrapped, and like recruiting the right talent. Like we had to make sure, like the thing is, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you don't have money and you have to recruit talent and you don't have any funding. Not only money, like investment funding, but also like you don't have another job. You got to really sell the mission, man, and find the right people in the right place, whether you give equity. Like my first couple hires did get equity, which is like, my business partner today, Gus, we and him both share equal duties at the company, share equal equity, and it's great. But that's definitely the challenges that we had in the beginning was hiring, like finding the right people to make sure this company gets the right foot forward. You can't do it by yourself. Next thing is focus. As an entrepreneur in the beginning, you have so many different opportunities. In fact, I get more opportunities today than I did back then. And it's just about saying no and sticking your nose into the right ones. But also, like, the thing is, I view it this way, Neil. Every year, I get about 20 good opportunities to take the future of the business. Out of those, my job is to figure out the 5. And from those 5, I have to figure out which 3 to focus on. And usually out of the 3, one of them is the right one. And the other 2 are duds, and I move on. And you have to have it's like a quarterback in the NFL. You have to have a short-term memory when it comes to bad decisions. You move on, but you learn. And that's the way I've learned it, is that you just got to weed through that mess. Yeah. And once you go through that mess, you find the right decisions. You just keep on moving. Just never lose your focus.
And you talked about hiring there and the difficulties of hiring. This has come up before. I had somebody on recently who was setting up a business, and he wouldn't tell anybody that he hired what the business was about. And he had to sell the vision somehow. And so a guy called Jonathan Pirelli, who's got this nutrition bottle. And so how did you sell the vision to people when you had difficulties paying them, presumably at the beginning? So what was it that made them get on board with you?
So really what made them get on board with me is it was a unique mission. Like I pitched them, think about this. You see boring presentations every day, but how would you like to actually make a dent and actually, like I just quoted Steve Jobs, how would you like to make a dent in the universe in a way where we can actually make a dent in ridding the world of boring presentations? And that usually was the biggest selling point was, holy crap, that's a huge problem, boring presentations. Like if someone is really bored in a presentation and doesn't adequately sell the value proposition, can you imagine how many deals that could have been made with good products and the people that present it were just great presenters? Mm-hmm. Like it could be a very different world, and for good or bad, but at the same time, like there's potential here. And so people that came on board in the beginning saw that potential and thought, wow, this is something that I can actually make a calling for. It's not just I'm designing, I'm helping people actually present something and putting it all on the line. And that's a very big calling card, even today. Yeah.
So really, zooming out even further on this is really about communication skills, isn't it, with your book? Because obviously the things that are in your book you can apply to even recruiting people, ultimately, because you're selling the vision to those people. So how you present, it's not just about standing in an auditorium full of people and doing a presentation. It can be a presentation in front of a small number of people or one person and selling the dream.
Yep, agreed.
Did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Honestly, no, I didn't have any doubts. I just, the thing is, I just jumped into it and thought, you know what, let's do this. And if I fail, I'll fail, but I'll never be out. If you lose, don't lose the lesson is one of my favorite quotes. Next to be so good they can't ignore you. And I never, ever, ever doubted that this was going to fail. And the thing is, it did scare me, but I just knew that as long as I kept my focus, something was going to happen.
What mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
I actually made a bad hire in the beginning. That slowed it down. I thought hire your friends was a good idea. It wasn't. That didn't turn out well. I also made the mistake of hiring a bunch of college students in the beginning who are still here today. They're great. But the thing is, they actually slowed down the company because we couldn't take as much work on. But the thing is, those guys are the best. That was the best mistake I ever made, because in the beginning, while it was slow, today we're killing it together. That's the thing is, you give or take. When you don't have enough money, you hire college students. You invest a lot of time in those college students. Hopefully they stay. If they don't, so be it. You're still good friends with them. But a lot of the ones did stay, and I'm so thankful they did, because I'll ride or die with those guys. You know, Phil, Corey, those guys in the office right now, or Rob, like the guys that have been there for like many, many, many years. You know, I can't thank them enough. And Gus, my business partner. So, you know, those are some of the mistakes I made in the beginning, but those mistakes turn out to be victories in the long run. Looking back at it though, Neil, if I were to change things, you know, I don't know if I would hire out of college, or I don't know if I would honestly, you know, just try to focus on one thing just with presentation design. I would look at the bigger picture and say, you know, while we're fixing just presentations, how do we teach these people how to fish? Like, let's actually train them to be better presenters. We didn't do that till about year 2, and we missed a huge revenue stream for that.
Yeah. You talked about hiring friends there. Would you not do that again then?
You know, that's an iffy question. It's like, of course I want to trust people I have, but you know, the right friends I do hire, the thing I will say is that I want to make sure that friend completes me in what I don't have in the business sense. Like, I'm not the world's best manager, but I'm a better visionary and strategist. And so if I can find someone that complements me as a manager or like a CFO role, like those are just my personal weaknesses. Like, you know, that's something that I really like. And that's what my business partner, Gus, likes. You know, we've been best friends for like more than 10 years. And the thing is, like, that's really great for me because I know I can trust him. And it really comes down to trust and faith that they can do things that you can't.
And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur's way?
You know, honestly, you hear like a lot of people say just create a business plan and just get going. To me, it's like the first step is just getting that doubt in your mind and just going with it. Like, everyone will have doubts. It's just jumping. Like, with me, I guess you could say, like, I don't know if it's a doubt or was it a scare, but I did say, like, what if this could fail? But I thought at the end of the day, like, am I going to be kicking myself, you know, 40 years from now saying that I didn't do this? I would never want to have that feeling. So it's just all about assessing your doubts and just jumping. Like, you know, I can't tell you enough, Neil. If you don't jump, you'll never find out if you're going to fall or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's nothing worse than sitting there thinking, what if?
It's a horrible feeling, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny, can we just talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit here now? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Like, when I think of culture, I think culture might be the most important thing, honestly, Neil, because culture is what defines your personality, your calling at your company. Like, the thing is, like, you can have a great business, but you don't have a great culture. How are you going to recruit talent? One of the most important functions of your business. Like, culture is one of the most underrated, but also one of the most important things at a company. It's not about building a great business. It's about building a great business and culture. They come hand in hand.
So do you think that's something that you should think about from the beginning then, because some people let it sort of evolve organically, and then other people have the view that you should sort of sit there and engineer it to some extent. So I just wonder where you should go with that.
Yeah, like, to me, like, I always think, like, when it comes to culture, like, you got to get that from the beginning. Like, if your first 3 hires will define your culture, like, make sure, like, you know, don't hire people that are just like you. Hire people with different personalities, different, like, you know, obviously same cultural values, but at the same time, different personalities, different interests. You can make yourself have a very diverse, cool culture. But it's so important to understanding that culture really is what makes you want to stay at the company. It really is. Like, money's one thing, but if you love what you do, and like when the going gets tough, man, like, you know, you want to stick around.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that, if you'd known it when you started out, would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
One thing I would shorten my learning curve is to read more books. Yeah, I didn't read a lot when I first started the business. It wasn't until like later parts, like the last 3 years, I started reading more. I felt like I would have read more, made that time to read more, and that would also help me out. I wish I also would have hit the gym a little bit more in the beginning, because that would have helped me keep a clean, fresh mind. Because the thing is, like, it's so important to take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's producing your business. If you can't take care of yourself, man, like, I don't know how you can take care of your business.
How much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
Everything, man. Like, a lot of gut feeling stuff, man. Like, in fact, for my TEDx talk, we were talking beforehand about how we turned down Shark Tank. Yeah. You know, the reason why we turned them down to even be on the show was my gut feeling just said no. And from there, like I learned if you follow your gut feeling, there's a lot of chances there's no what ifs. So that's why I say, like, follow that gut, learn to develop that gut, look for the long term versus the short term. That's how you can see a clear focus.
What advice would you give to other business owners who may be struggling in business at this moment?
Honestly, it's just trust in your people. Like, ask questions. Don't be a micromanager. I find the best ways that we can grow a business is to listen to the opinions of our people that we pay to hire and to get their ideas. Why should we just make them, do the work? Pay them and make them earn their ideas and like let them contribute their ideas. I think that's like a common thing. Is like when you start with as an entrepreneur, you have this vision, but you're not always sometimes in the front lines. It's important to listen to your people, and that can really make a big difference in your company. Because our processes, our creative processes, have been tweaked so much by our creative team. People that like came on board to the company that spoke up. I cannot thank them enough for what they do.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many say the only constant in life is change. Kenny, how do you try to keep up with change?
When it comes to me with change is happening all the time. It's identifying if the change is something that you want to jump on or jump off, or at least monitor. And I say that it's more of a blanket statement, but the way I see it is like, change happens all the time in our industry. Like people, are always trying to like have new presentation tools. They're trying to create new ways to create good content. It's identifying which one is the focus. Which one is the focus to your business model? And the thing is, I don't want to change all the time. I like change, but if I'm constantly changing, how will I keep up with the foundation? So the best way I keep up with change is that I say, does this tune in with my focus? If it doesn't, I move on. And there's so many things like change can do to our company. Like, for example, if we want to create a model where we do everything customized design, if we create a model where we're just shipping out templates, or we use a program such as Haiku Deck, which is a great program for presenters on the fly, but it might be tougher for like the customized design. That's not a change that I feel like would be great for our business. It might be great for some companies, but for the companies you want to work with, that's not the change that they need. And so that's how I identify changes, stick and focus.
And what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
I love the new book by, actually it's not really new. You ever heard of Be Our Guest by Ted Kinney?
No.
It's a really good book. It's actually written by he used to be a big higher up at Disney. And what's so cool about it is what I learned throughout that book, or actually no, he interviewed the Disney Institute. That's what he did. And we learned a lot about customer service and how do you create happiness in a company, not only culturally wise, but also just overall when it comes to vast cultures. And what I mean by that is that Disney is a huge company. How do you create a culture that's applicable to all the different parks, to all the different departments? It's simply very tough because you have so many different employees in different walks of life. And so what he identified in Be Our Guest was how do you create a great customer service experience that ties back to your culture? I recommend any entrepreneur to read that because it's helped us really identify what's our core standards. It's amazing. Like our core standards are purpose, process, focus, and measure. We do every project with those 4 different standards. And it's so important that you identify your customer standards when you deliver projects or when you build a company. So Be Our Guest by Ted Kinney is one I definitely recommend.
Yeah. You talked about core standards there, and it's interesting you mentioned that because I've come across that with other people I've talked to and I've read about it as well. So the core standards, they're presumably something that everybody that works in your company knows about. Would it be right in understanding
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Yes.
And what's the benefit of them knowing what they are?
It starts with the first one, actually. I said it out of order, but focus is the first one. Yeah. Is that if they know exactly what the core standards are, they never lose their focus. That they don't make decisions that don't align with these core standards. So focus is that we operate in a team way where there are different teams in the company that take on certain projects. So small teams can take on big problems. Purpose is that we never forget the why. We like to work backwards, is that we want to always think of the end result first before even starting and putting something down to a page or to a line of code. We always think of the final end result. And that's so important, is that we never lose the focus. So it stems from that. process is that the process allows us to be focused, but following a process allows us to keep things consistent, but also very great for our client. We want a great, consistent experience. And finally, measure. We don't make decisions or we don't recommend things to our client that we can't measure. And the thing is, like, if we don't just paint pretty pictures at our shop. We want to be able to find a way where our clients can say, wow, they did a great job. And this is how they did it. And this is how we measure they do it. And so it's very important to have those things, but it all ties back to focus.
Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Kenny, what I'd like to do now with you is speculate a little bit about the future and things. So what one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
You know, if I could do one thing with my business, I would like to be the premier conference company in the world where we can help produce conferences and be a consultation company and also just help people develop those experiences. But the thing is, though, it's very tough because when you work with a lot of presenters with different timelines, different time schedules, like it's simply not the easiest scalable business model. And so if I could not fail, I would love to be in that business where, you know, time is infinite and there's no, there's no repercussions if like if every presenter was great when they go up there. But I know that's not a perfect world. But yeah, that's what I would love to be at, a conference production company that just helps presenters create great conferences and shows.
Yeah, you're the first person who's asked for infinite time, but I'll second you on that. I'd like that.
Yeah.
What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Time management. I mean, the thing is, I think I'm a pretty good time manager, but I feel like I can always be better. I feel like the best, if I'm able to manage my time most efficiently and stay focused and not be distracted, I feel like I would be a lot better of a business person. I'm still working on it today. I say no a lot to a lot of different things come my way, but you know, I still can get distracted sometimes. It's just learning how to better manage my time.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
That we figured out how to become that production company that I talked about earlier. You see, like, you know, if I couldn't fail, Neil,
yeah,
I still want to do it. I don't care. Like that scares me right there. I have doubts about that, but I still want to do it. In 5 years, if they can write and say that we did a great job at it, you know, I'll be very proud of what we've become.
Mm-hmm. We are now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Kenny, what is your favorite quote and how have you applied it?
One of my favorite quotes, it's actually a quote by Steve Martin, and I love that because it's just basically go out in the world and just do your best. Really just do your best. And if you are the best, people will notice you and you will make a difference. The next one is don't count the days, make the days count. It's basically don't waste your day. Make sure every day you have a purpose and you enjoy that purpose. I don't like living in a world where if I hated what I do, that's why I'm very blessed to do what I do. So, you know, don't make the days, you know, don't count the days, make the days count is one of my favorite ones. And finally, one of my all-time favorite quotes as well is if you lose, don't lose the lesson. I think failure is totally okay. And if you fall down, it's perfectly okay to say, what did I take away from this and move on? Because in 2 years, maybe that failure won't define you anymore. You'll forget it. It'll be something so big. So I just look to the future. So those are the 3 ones I really, really, really love. And I hope any business person can take that to heart.
Yeah, you've got some great quotes there. Do you have any favorite online resources that you can share with us?
I love producthunt.com. That actually helps keep me up with like what the latest tech trends are. That's how I saw Nebbia actually for the first time, Phillips company. Mm-hmm. Producthunt.com Reddit is actually one that keeps – it's like the online how I get my news sometimes. And as weird as it sounds, man, I love the Slack count as like online resources. Like I think it's kind of an online program, but it helps me keep up to date with my team. Like that's an online tool that we use like all the time.
And that's called what? The Slack?
Slack, yeah. Slack. It's by Stuart Butterfield, yep.
And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
Best advice, that's a good one. stay focused. That's the best thing I could say is like, if you have a mission, go after it. But at the same time, be a capitalist too. Help the world, but make sure the idea that you have can actually sustain you. Like really, like you need the money to make sure a company can be sustained and make a difference. And so I guess you could say like stay focused, but be a capitalist. Be adaptable to change.
Mm-hmm. Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Kenny's favourite resource or his favourite books, then you can find the links on Kenny's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Kenny or Kenny Nguyen in the search box. Kenny, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
One thing that I would love to add is that, we have, if you can identify your mission in any company, like just like we did our Ridding the World of Boring presentations, I think that'll really help rally the troops. So if there's anything there, not only does it rally the troops, it rallies others to believe in us and believe in our mission. I think any business person should find that. Like, what is your mission to the world? And how do you have the community, not only internally, but externally, support that? So, thank you all for listening to what I had to say. Like, I hope y'all believe the same way that I do, is that we can really, really make a dent in the world when it comes to boring presentations. We all work together.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think it's something that's sadly missing in the corporate world, and it's something that they need to get a lot better. In fact, not just corporate world, businesses in general. I think everybody just needs to get better at presentation skills. So it's really great that you've written a book that actually helps people shows people how to do that. And yeah, I love it. Kenny, thank you for coming on the show. It really has been an honour having you on here. Being able to actually read your book and talk to you about what the concepts and your thinking behind your book, and also sort of zooming out a little bit and finding out a little bit more about how you relate that in business and how how you think as an entrepreneur has really been a great thing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, Neil. I loved it, enjoyed it, man. You're very inspiring yourself, and I hope great things come to those people that listen to this interview. I'm very blessed to be in all.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.